Mysteries of the Maya with John Magana. You are listening to Brothers of the Serpent podcast.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, angels and demons and monsters and serpents. This is Brothers of the Serpent podcast, and we are coming to you not live, again, from the 10 by 10 by 10 Tangent Cube of Science, where we are nestled amongst the dusty bones of an ancient seabed, high atop the Edwards Plateau. We have Laura in studio with us.
Hey.
She was here last week as well for the live, but we are doing a not live episode this time. We have a guest. And we've already done the interview. It was fantastic. So we're doing a little time traveling here. Classic Snake Bros time travel. So what you guys are about to listen to is actually in our past. But it was fantastic. It was the first time we've talked to this guy. It was really great.
Yep, learned a lot.
Yeah.
And really need to get down there and check out all of the stuff they got.
Yes.
I'm going to the jungle. That's my job. Yeah. I didn't get the coast job.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
That's right.
And I'm just happy that I got a guest in here. It's harder than it looks.
Laura's
folks.
first guest get,
Yep.
and it was a good one.
Yep.
It was a good one. Watcher's not here. None of us know why.
Have to say that, otherwise people complain.
That's right. We now are required to announce when he's not here.
We love you, Watcher.
But why aren't you here? That's really the question. Well, I think we should dive right into the interview.
Yep, let's do it.
Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Here we go. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brothers of the Serpent podcast, and we are happy to have on a guest. This is Laura's first guest.
Whoop.
She has been hired to help us get more guests, and this is the first one. We're very happy to have John from Living Dreams Mexico. John, that's a tour company, is that right?
It is technically a tour company.
Technically,
a tour company with a little bit of a twist of hopefully letting folks kind of put their guard down when they travel and expect just an experience as close as they can to their dreams. Pretty much.
yeah, that sounds good.
It's a good name.
Yeah, it is a good name. So we want to talk to you about ancient mysteries in the areas you're from, the areas that you specialize in. But tell us first how you got into this stuff. Like, how did you start this passion?
I think like quite a few of us, Russ, it's something that really stems from childhood.
Yeah.
It always seemed to me that when I was a child, there were certain classes that took a lot of work in order to absorb and digest. And there were certain classes that you could just kind of idle by and easily soak things up because they were just so interesting. Pretty much since childhood, I was fascinated by history, especially ancient history. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, where there weren't any ancient sites that I could go visit.
Yeah.
So when life dealt me an amazing opportunity to live somewhere that is just so rich in ancient, mysterious history, I just went in head first, pretty much.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, it is Living Dreams.
I'm thinking of what's the place in Illinois? The big city, the Native American city.
Cahokia?
Yeah, Cahokia. Did you ever go there when you were in Illinois?
Would you believe I did not? I really started with some of the typical topics that were discussed in the public school system, and Cahokia was not one of them.
Yeah,
it should have been.
No.
Yeah.
I
True,
didn't learn
true.
about it until much after school. as
Same
well.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, and we still haven't been either. You know, it's weird how there's a lot of things very close to us, including Mexico. I mean, we're in Texas, and we still haven't gone to pyramids.
Yeah, we've
in Mexico,
gone to Egypt and Turkey,
do it.
but we haven't gotten down to Mexico yet.
It tends to be that way.
Yeah. So, Laura,
So you moved to.
you want to explain? I know you told this story before.
Yeah, real brief.
Yeah.
I went for one of my girlfriend's weddings with one of my other girlfriends, Ashley and Cassie. Cassie got married. Ashley came with me, and
And you guys went
I just want to give a shout out to Ashley really quick because I was scared I wasn't going to get to do Snake Brosy shit when I was down there because it was a wedding. And Ashley pulled through. She was like, no, we're doing Snake Brosy shit. Yes. Anyway, so we got to go to Tulum, met Danny, my tour guide. He sent me over here to John to come talk about this stuff. So I have got to go to Mexico.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, she
no,
has
I didn't.
gotten
I
to-
only got to see Tulum, and it was really quick because we were on the wedding schedule, and So I'm eager to talk to you about some more of the stuff in Mexico that I did not get to see.
It's funny that you started with Tulum because Tulum was actually my first archaeological site as well. Yes, I like to consider that the Maya we have with carbon dating, we have 4,000 years of history, and Tulum is the last chapter. So you skipped all the way to the end.
It was the closest to the wedding site. That's what happened.
So, what is the most interesting place that you've found over there, and what is it about it that is so, I don't know. Tell us about it.
Yeah.
I think if you twist my arm, it's a really, really tough one. I would almost have to go with a 1 and a 1A, if I may.
Yeah, that's fine.
Of course.
I think for me, number one would have to be Cholula, which maybe we recognize from a certain Netflix documentary. Cholula is it happens to be, to the best of our understanding, the largest man-made structure from the ancient world. Its dimensions are just unfathomable. I had a chance to visit some of the tunnels that were in Cholula, and just some of the backstory behind it and how it was so unfathomably massive that the Spanish conquistadors wouldn't have imagined that it was actually an ancient structure that just happened to grow vegetation. Hence the Catholic church that is built at the summit of an ancient pyramidal structure. The tunnels were a little bit of almost a cop out on behalf of the government in our recent times, where they knew you couldn't dismantle the church, so you have to do something with that. The tunnels were a little bit of a plan B. They give us exposure to substructures, which are very common in massive ancient structures of Mesoamerica. I would say the other one that I love very much is Teotihuacan. That's only a 1 hour drive from Mexico City. Teotihuacan has structures that rival Egypt's pyramids as far as just their mass, their scale. Teotihuacan has hot air balloon rides available, so you could really get an understanding of just how massive these structures are. And it just so happens Teotihuacan is the most studied of all of the archaeological sites in Mexico. It is actually the most visited site in North America.
Wow.
Yet we know so little about it.
Why do you think that is? Why do we know so little about it?
I think that's a question that I actually have asked myself many times, Kyle. We I think as a mainstream archaeological community, in order to do justice to predecessors, it wasn't really a thing in the Americas until American universities in the early 1900s that decided that Egypt was just too far. And you had some interesting things with a much shorter flight. That kind of got the ball rolling, but the ancient cities in Mesoamerica, nature's not in our side. Apart from the fact that for a very long time, there was no culture of preservation or appreciation. As well, nature tends to reclaim them more. If I could use as an example, Laura, you've been to Tulum. 40 minutes west of Tulum is the ancient site of Coba. Coba has the tallest pyramidal structure in the northern Yucatan Peninsula, and half of it is engulfed in jungle. Unlike the structures that would be found in the Middle East, in the Fertile Crescent area, where you could almost freeze time with the help of the natural conditions. Here, there's much more consistent and lengthy rainfall. Here you have a climate that is ready to reclaim the structures, if I could say it that way.
Yeah.
Then that's really obvious from all of the LiDAR scans that they've been doing out there, and just finding like huge metropolis like areas that are
Yeah, but it's like only the foundations are left.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's completely covered in jungle. And,
Yeah.
and archaeologists talked about how like they were walking over the tops of these structures, didn't even know.
Yeah.
And what a job to uncover that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Clear the jungle.
It's kind of funny that in the archaeology of the Maya, again, if I may, Laura, swerve back to your first Maya archaeological site. The three, for those that are a little bit newer to the world of Maya archaeology specifically, the Maya history is really carved up into three different time periods, which we call the pre-classic, classic, and post-classic. So what it pretty much, if all four of us were archaeologists drawing straws to see what we're going to have to dig up and where we're going to go work, we all hope that we get post-classic because the Maya, upon their collapse, moved to the beach. They all moved to the coast. So the coastal living for the Maya was very restricted until their society collapsed. And as a matter of fact, if I may, hopefully not being too winded on this particular strand of information, to this day, when we have the most dangerous phenomenon that we can think of occur in the ocean, we call it a hurricane, which stems from a Maya deity called Huracan.
Oh.
The Maya,
that's
in
cool.
many ways, let's just say whenever the Maya did their tax returns, whenever they got the return, it was in salt. Whenever they got their kind of communal payment for doing their civic duties, it was in salt. So you wanted to keep folks away from the ocean. And it was really important to really emphasize that this big, bad, dangerous, unpredictable deity by the name of Huracan would get them if they went closer to the ocean.
Wow.
Man, that is
So hence the post-classic period, when they finally stopped drinking that Kool-Aid and they all moved to the ocean, and Tulum was basically the poster child city for the post-classic.
So you're saying you want to be post-classic archaeologists so you get to live on the beach? Is that what you...
That one.
Okay.
I get to have cocktails. I get to have cocktails after my digging, and you all are going to have to figure out, what mule is going to get you back to the nearest town when it's all done.
I just hope I got mosquito repellent.
Exactly.
Man,
You're
those
getting the
mosquitoes
gist
are-
of it. Yeah.
But the beach, the
The
wind, you don't get the
pterodactyls down here.
mosquitoes with the wind at the beach.
In the jungle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in
I
the
thought we were
jungle,
talking
you're
about
going to
the
need...
beach.
Yeah.
No, he got the beach.
He's
I'm
getting
in the,
the
jungle.
beach. Kyle's
Exactly.
getting
So we
pre-classic.
draw straws. Basically, if you get pre-classic, you're in the worst shape of all.
Dude, you know what? I'll wear a suit. I'm going down into a cenote, bro. I'm gonna
You'll
find
make it
something
work.
crazy.
So you said Tulum is one of the last ones. What's the first known Mayan complex?
Well, one of the first, if I could use, there's literally thousands of them.
Yeah.
So if you have to use one that folks could have any kind of information if they want to check out after checking out this podcast, there is one called El Mirador, which would translate in English to the lookout point. One of the peculiarities of the names of these sites is that the names are lost.
Yeah.
So they were literally renamed, and many, if not almost all, we have no clue what their real name was. El Mirador, for example, is one that had LiDAR, as you were mentioning, Kyle. El Mirador is a pre-classic city. The pre-classic period of the Maya is when there were not so many cities like the classic, but those that existed were every bit into the mega city category. So El Mirador would be in the jungles of Guatemala. To this day, it would be very difficult to get there.
We did get to visit something in the jungles of Guatemala when we were much younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parents took
Maybe
us.
Tikal
What was
could have
it?
been.
It could have
was
been
like
Tikal, I think. Yeah.
Some kind of, we were walking through, there was these trees with these gigantic root structures
banyan
coming down.
trees,
And then,
yeah.
and we just, they show up and there's this giant,
And then, there's
I don't know what it was.
There was a huge, Mayan ziggurat or pyramid, and then off in the distance in the jungle, we could see other ones that are still completely covered in greenery, totally, covered up. But I was,
Unexcavated, pretty much.
totally unexcavated. Yeah, it was amazing. I was like
A lot of
12.
mystery. To be frank, there does come a little bit of a fork in the road with ancient Mesoamerican archaeology. The hostility of nature and so much purposeful destruction of the information during the conquest of
Yep.
the Americas it really leads you to a lot of dead ends. So you have the chance to either feel frustration from not having concise, conclusive information, or what I choose to do, I just add a little bit of romance to the mystery of not knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
agree.
Whenever I think about the destruction of those libraries, I get mad. So let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
But I would
you
like
got
to.
it, Kyle. You know what I'm talking about.
I know. So I'm curious. Do you think did all these pre-classic cities? You said there were many of them. Do you think they all kind of sprung up very close around the same time? Is this?
Is it like an urban explosion, or do you?
What a great question. So basically, in this 4,000 year-ish time span, the pre-classic, the earliest known of the pre-classic would basically be 2,500 BC. So the pre-classic would have been a little more scarce as far as, let's just say in the pre-classic, it would have been LA, Chicago, New York. And then all of a sudden, in the classic period, where we still debate as to what triggered the classic and what really was the transitionary period, the most mainstream belief is that there would have been volcanic activity in the area of El Salvador that would have really caused havoc on their environment and on their ability to have consistent agriculture. So basically, ironically enough, when our Gregorian calendar begins, roughly 100 AD, this is when what we call the classic period really takes off. This is when, and pardon me, I like to use the examples of cities we're all aware of to just add a little bit of a tie to it.
Yeah.
Let's just say in the classic period, now comes Dallas, now comes Houston, now comes Cleveland, now comes all of the very important cities that were not of the pre-classic era. And as a matter of fact, during the classic era, there would have already been abandonment of, let's just say, a structure like El Mirador. So the classic era is when the boom happened. That's when the big cities really start to spring up. That's when I could say we have the richest amount of history available to us today to study.
So what are the main differences? You did tell us about the post classic that they moved to the beach, but what are the main differences between these three periods?
Well, ironically enough, when you deal with it from an archaeological standpoint, you do look for cheat codes because there's just so much information.
Yeah.
One of the dead giveaways that you are exploring a pre-classic site, which is not at all a common occurrence, the stairways tend to be sunken into the structure. They don't protrude outward. So a massive pre-classic structure many times tends to have the stairways as an indentation inside of the structure, as a dead giveaway. Okay. In the classic era, the stairways protrude, and there is definitely some overlapping. I'm sure that me, as well as many colleagues, sometimes if you present to us just two mounds of ancient structures in the jungle, it does take more than just a trained eye to be able to know.
Yeah.
Both overlap with the fact that they're meant to be in the heart of the jungle, keeping you away from the salt, hence allowing control of the governing bodies. Pre-classic would have had very, very obnoxious structures, not as many cities. And the classic period, it really then tended to vary. For those of us, in case there's any of our audience that's a little more into Maya history, that's when you have those classic juggernauts like Tikal that we discussed, Tikal that would have been constantly at war with Calakmul. Something important about the Maya specifically, as that's what we're discussing at this moment, we believe they did not do empires. The Maya had individual city-states. They had a very complex political system where one city could be best friends with this other one, but they could be sworn enemies for generations with another one.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the clearest answer to your question.
No, that was good. I was asking more about cultural differences, but the structure differences are important as well. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So on that, is there any knowledge as to when their astronomy, their mathematics, and all that kind of stuff really took off, or did it start at the beginning?
We could say it really took off in the pre-classic period. It's still really debated as to what the precursor setup was of, let's just say, the Maya. There's a lot of belief that the Olmec had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
During the pre-classic period of the Maya, this would have been a contemporary period with the Olmec. And of course, I'm sure many of us know the monuments made by the Olmec of the large heads. Now comes the very interesting global debate when you see that the Olmec statues had such African features.
Yeah.
But as far as specifically the Maya and how they really took off with some of their iconic achievements in the realm of understanding the movements of the skies and the stars, I would say the pre-classic really is when it took off. There's evidence of their religious system already being very well developed in the pre-classic.
Yeah.
There's evidence of their ability to track the sky being already very well developed in the pre-classic period.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's part of what this and then there's this. I don't know if this is necessarily true for this with the astronomy and the structures, but with other civilizations like Egypt, we see the same thing. They seem to spring up building their most complex and difficult structures early, and then there's a slow degradation over time. Is that also true with what you see with the Maya?
It is, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
If I could use a really good example, I think many of us have seen from different things on television the site of Palenque in present-day Chiapas, Mexico, where you think of the Boy King, the Boy King that it's such a similarity to our Boy King of Egypt by the name of Pakal. Pakal actually was almost found under a rock, basically, by the remnants of his city that was wiped out. I mean, his city in present-day Chiapas would have been decimated by war. And during periods of war, there is definitely evidence that there's a very, very marked slowdown in development.
Yeah.
With the Maya, it's a little bit interesting because even during times of growth, they made a really good job of not destroying previous structures. So it does give us a pretty good idea of how long they would have taken before being ambitious and getting involved with new growth. And definitely for us to really put a time frame on it, we could say that pretty much the last of the large scale growth of the Maya pretty much ended in the 700 AD mark.
Wow.
You're saying they didn't destroy the stuff before them? Is that what I was hearing you say?
Exactly. So
That's
Maya,
nice. We were just talking about
everything
this.
was alive. They thought everything was alive.
Animism.
A twig was alive. A rock was alive.
Yeah.
Everything, and had almost a personification, if I could say it that way. So even structures had the level of importance to where you would carefully build over it instead of destroying. If I may, for the audience, in case you're ever in this neck of the woods, there is an archaeological site by the name of Ekbalam. It's only 40 minutes from Chichen Itza. Ekbalam actually has a substructure that was discovered in the 1990s. Literally, archaeologists, as unconventional as it may sound, archaeologists purposely get their hands in and start destroying.
What?
And one would imagine, stop! What are you doing? You're wrecking it for those of us in the future. They have a duty to destroy certain parts as they look for substructures. In Ekbalam, they actually found an exquisite expression of art from the classic period. It resembles a Catholic church quite a bit. There's even the Maya deities. Would you believe that they even have wings like an angel does?
Wow.
And this is something that wouldn't have been saved were it not for their passion for not destroying the previous structure.
I love that.
They carefully built over the previous. So pretty much all of the large scale structures of the Maya, it's almost like the Russian Katrishna dolls. There's one inside of the other one, inside of the other one. Chichen Itza being the most mainstream, it actually has 3. The one we see, the one in the middle, and the smallest one before.
And how old is the smallest, the oldest, the one at the bottom? Dude.
The one at the bottom, it could really be disputed because we have not, it would really take some serious destruction of the outer structures in order to really get to understand it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, but we believe Chichen Itza really took off during the classic period. So an educated guess would be somewhere in the area of 1 to 200 AD.
Wow. The reason I pointed my finger at you is because the pictures that you gave me ahead of time. The only one I picked that I wanted to ask a question about was from Ekbalam.
Oh,
Yeah.
how about that?
Is it
How about that?
That's Stella from Ekbalam? Is that it?
Yeah. Can you pull up the.
Sure.
Yeah, Kyle, pull it up real quick.
Ask your question.
Well, where'd it go?
He's gonna share it. Here it is.
You know, we've been recently talking about Göbekli Tepe. And
Oh, very similar. I saw that presentation you all did, and I definitely got the vibe. I definitely got that vibe.
Yeah.
well, it looks like it's tapered and fit in wherever it stands. I don't know. Tell us about it. Because I didn't get to go there when I was in Mexico. So you brought it up, and I had picked a picture from it. So give us the rundown.
This particular stela is very, very rich in information. I mean, these funny enough, if you ever want to pluralize, you actually say stellae.
Stellae.
Because if you say stellas, you might get a two Stella Artois.
Yeah. Hey, that's a great mistake.
Yeah, it's a great mistake.
Exactly, right? So let me make that mistake on purpose first. So yes, of all stellae that I've had a chance to encounter, that one is pretty rich in information. It's pretty much this one, and if I may, just because of the short amount of time that we have, I almost want to provide just a slight generalization as to this one.
Yeah, go for it.
As well as pretty much the vast majority of stellae that you'll find in the Maya world. These are dynastic monuments. They tend to be what really we would have as an educated guess. It's really a celebration of a specific leader. Stellae are all about the classic period. That's when you really find them. It's the celebration of a leader. Many times, I mean, as you can tell, they've been very eroded, but there's all these hints in them that give you clues as to the social structures. You find little hints of people that are dramatically smaller, and many another podcast would take on that opportunity to talk about gigantism or something like that. But we take it as it's just a representation to show how much more important someone is than others. Many times, a stela in particular has little clues as to when they were built. For example, if a stela is if a ruler would be facing to the west, it would be a stela that was made towards the end of their rule. And a ruler that would be facing east, it would be a monument celebrating the beginning of their rule.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Oh,
Facing
can
the
I
dawn
ask
or
a
facing
question?
the sunset.
What do you think about the south side of a gravel pyramid being left uncovered? What is it?
Why are
Are you
you
talking about Chichen Itza specifically?
She's talking about a site in Turkey called Nimrut.
Nimrut's doggy?
What would the south side, if the south side was going to
Was
be
marked in some way.
do you think that would mean? I'm just curious.
I think it's very special that you're asking me that you think highly enough to ask me an opinion somewhere where I don't have much, I don't really have any education. But we are talking about, in the essence of the podcast, the possibility that there would have been a time where different ideas would have converged on a global scale. So if we could go under that premise. For the Maya, at least, anything that involved north involved the inevitable end of life, and south would have implied more of a subterranean. So to me, if you allow me an educated guess and say I give you a random ancient structure, and you talk about the cardinal points, and you say take a pick between north and south. One is going to be elaborate, and one is going to be very plain. I'm always going to say north is going to be elaborate, and south is going to be plain.
Yep.
North is going to be headed towards heaven and headed towards the next life. South is going to imply that we're going back to the underworld, back to the beginning, and the beginning is dark and lacks detail.
That's beautiful.
Thank
that is
you
great.
so much.
Because just the site that she was referencing is marked on the north side, the east and west, but the south side is not marked. And we were thinking like maybe that's where the entrance to the mound is. Like if you dug in
to go under.
to go to the underworld, like
Yeah.
you're saying on the south side. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good
Great description.
general.
That was
yes.
beautiful. Okay, continue on about this. You're doing great. This is amazing.
Well, funny enough that there's just such a wealth of information. In my world of archaeology, you almost have to choose between two different career paths. You are either an archaeological guide or you are an archaeologist. And I took on archaeological guide. There are many aspects that I'm not qualified to really break down.
Of course.
Yeah.
It almost seems that archaeologists are just that much more, I wouldn't say a rule of thumb, but much more introverted, but can get just lost to themselves in a few hours staring and depicting. What I can tell you, if I may, as a little bit of a left field, my understanding of writing, their writing system, it was not until a citizen from Soviet-era Russia that was actually able to finally decipher the Maya writing system. So to understand what they have in writing is something very new to us. And if someone were to kind of put me on the spot and say, well, jumbling up all these Mesoamerican civilizations, where are the special points of the Maya? They had the most sophisticated writing system.
Yeah.
So it would be a whole thing. I mean, you'd take months to be able to decipher that, Stella.
So when did the writing begin? Did that also start with the pre-classic?
The writing also started towards the late end of the pre-classic. There's definitely examples of pre-classic that don't have writing. So it does seem to be that this was when the era when a lot of the writing system may have still been in the oven, and it would have not have been as widely distributed.
So in Egypt, the hieroglyphics sort of go through a process of change. They look one way in the early times, and then they look quite a bit different later.
Yeah, and the usage, the syntax, everything, lots of things change. So people can just look at a text and say, okay, this is from this period because of the way it's written.
Is that similar with the Maya, or did it stay the same?
I think what would become most similar with that and the Maya, I think the Maya were fairly consistent with the writing system. What would have given us clues as to how chronologically they'd be laid out would be adherence to certain deities. For example, it just seems like such a simple one. When you went to Tulum, Laura, Tulum is just plastered with the descending god Itzamna. So, for example, if you run into any glyphs that reference Itzamna, I would just almost automatically expect it to be a post-classic.
Post-classic, okay.
That's really interesting, though, that the writing didn't develop over this. That didn't go through a massive change over 4,000 years.
Definitely, from the best of our understanding, there was definitely, let's just say there was enough continuity. There is, I'm sure that there had to have been some considerable change, but the best educated kind of understanding that I have here is that archaeologists, that I've been around many, they don't run into a brick wall when they say, oh, well, these glyphs are from a period that I don't understand. It tends to be either you're good at deciphering glyphs or you're not. And you never really hear in the community of proper archaeologists to say, hey, bring in Felipe because he's really good at the early classic glyphs, and so is really good with the post classic glyphs. That doesn't tend to be the case.
Okay, so if there was a shift, it's not that big, is what you're saying? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I'm sure studying it enough, we're going to see some shift.
Yeah,
I think if we use the comparison point as Egypt, it wouldn't have been as marked as Egypt.
Yeah, so there might be style changes or things, but you can still read it.
Yeah, so part of the reason, the reason I'm kind of focusing on this is again, this interesting phenomenon where something just seems to appear out of nowhere, and that like this incredibly complex writing system shows up in the very early stages of this civilization, and then continues on with very little change for thousands of years. That's incredible to me.
It's funny you say that, Kyle. If I could compliment quickly on that. The Maya as a civilization, they do show a very considerable mark that being insular. They're a little bit more of an insular society. They did trade with, for example, Teotihuacan. That's maybe a whole other podcast. But for the most part, the Maya had certain characteristics that made them very insular. Like, for example, it tended to be that if you don't have a trained eye for it, you almost would think that the Maya picked all the lush paradises in order to create their settlements. It couldn't be farther from the truth. The Maya were very stubborn people that, I mean, I say that in an affectionate way, very stubborn to say that when they picked a place, they made it work. And that same stubborn nature required continuity. And I believe that same continuity, it really has the underlying effect in their culture.
Yeah, I can see that. Everyone said it was daft to build a pyramid in a swamp, but I built it all the same.
Built it all the
Exactly.
same.
All right, we're going to take a quick break,
Yeah.
and we will be back. This has been great, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Wonderful.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, Brothers of the Serpent podcast, joined by Laura.
Hello.
And also our guest today, John, from Living Dreams, Mexico. And I think, well, first we're going to take a look at a place that Laura went to. You want to talk about it for a second?
Tulum. Well, John's going to talk about it.
The name of this place, I don't even know. Laura has some pictures and she wanted to ask
It's
John
Tulum. It's just a building at Tulum. John's going to give us the deal.
Okay.
And I want to know, you had said in the other segment that places like Tulum, there are markers there in some way that let you all know that it's from a certain period. And this building was really interesting, and I wanted to know what's going on with all these.
She wants you to read the writing for her, bro.
Oh, well, let's have at it. That specific image that you see there is really the deity of Tulum. Like Egyptians, like many different ancient civilizations, we had a little bit of a polytheistic approach towards their belief system. This specific deity that stems from the post-classic period of the Maya, known as Itzamna, is really the most by far the most prevalent of the deities in Tulum. If I can ask you, Kyle, to scroll to a more complete image of that structure.
Let's see here. There's one from the side.
That one's perfect. That one is perfect. If we could leave that one for just a moment. We talked about how you could really identify a structure's time period through the design work.
Yeah.
There are a dozen plus different architectural styles in the Maya world. I would say the softball, easy one for everyone here in case you're ever out and about exploring and you want to flex a little bit of Brothers of the Serpent muscle. This is what we call Oriental Coast Post-Classic. So you have a little bit of an archaeological bouginess going on.
Oh, right.
So how do you identify Oriental Coast Post-Classic architecture?
Well, number one, it's at the coast.
Yeah.
For one, it's on the coast. There you go. Now you could go even further and maybe identify something like this deep inland and leave someone scratching their head and say, hey, this Oriental Coast Post-Classic structure has no business so far away from the ocean, which is not at all common, but it does happen. For example, Koba, that would be 40 minutes west of Tulum, in the very, very summit of the largest structure, it has a temple from that architectural style. So it leads us to know that even though Koba predated Tulum by centuries, Tulum was aware of it. Tulum was aware that it existed. Cool. They must have done some kind of a pilgrimage to visit that sacred mound, and they revered it enough to build a small temple at the very top of it. So not common, but it can happen. But yes, mostly you are right. It is going to be on the coast as a dead giveaway. Another reason why this one is really simple is it lacks, I would say, it lacks the most creativity. Maybe that's just my poor depiction on it, but it's very boxy, and it has these telltale lines that run across a box structure. So can you tell yes, you see that one? And the 3 is a little bit of an anomaly. The typical is the top 2.
Okay. These two.
So basically, if you ever stumble upon an ancient Maya structure that is boxy and has 2 bars running across, you can do your Brothers of the Serpent and say, hey, I think that's an Oriental Coast post-classic architecture.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
I'll have to keep it in mind. That's interesting.
Now, if I may, that architectural style, because there's some, like we mentioned earlier, sometimes we have a little bit of the almost frustration because a lot of the history has been lost due to weather and purposeful destruction. Sometimes these architectural details are the best giveaway that there is definitely a relationship between one structure and another that is of a distance. Remember, the Maya particularly, they did not have wheels of common use. They did not have beasts of burden. They had elaborate road systems, but they would walk them. So a way to know that a structure was at the very least, a city would have been aware of another, is the stark similarities in style. The Oriental Coast architectural style, it does not originate from the coast. It originates from Chichen Itza.
Oh.
So that we could say
Yeah, click on
Chichen
that
Itza would have been the precursor. To
Yeah.
Not to be so all over the place with our topics, but we could have a viewer in this podcast that could say, wait a minute, I've seen that style before, and it was definitely not on the coast. The El Castillo, or the castle pyramidal structure at Chichen Itza, the very top of it, is really the origin of that style.
Huh. Interesting.
And this building was, the story goes something about water here with this one?
Well, this one we know it as the Temple of the Frescoes. That's how we really refer to it today. There are some fresco paintings, some remnants of them that are inside of it. I know it as a ceremonial structure. Now, if I may drop another Brothers of the Serpent little gem, whenever you're asked a question and you don't have a concise answer, your bailout answer is ceremonial purposes.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
It's definitely for ceremonies.
Yeah.
Well, should we go to Chichen Itza, the
Yeah,
picture
yeah.
that we had?
Let me pull that up.
Oh, I
yeah.
see it there.
Are we going to look at this one that you had me pull up?
I think it'd be great to pull up. I
Yeah.
think you all had a certain keen eye for the tapering at the bottom of structures, especially because from a stability standpoint, it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
So this is...
Yeah. So what?
This particular structure, funny enough, I think as far as any archaeological experiences without having to leave the continent, for those of our viewers that are in North America, I think Chichen Itza is one of the most commonly visited. It's the number 2 most visited in the continent, only behind Teotihuacan. Chichen Itza is actually 2 different archaeological sites in one location. It's divvied up between old and new. New being a time period when during the collapse, I kind of jokingly call it like the Walking Dead of the Maya. When it was all going downhill, Chichen Itza had a mysterious resurgence, and hence the very large structures that have a ton of influence from central Mexico, non-Mayan influence. What we're looking at right here, this is what we call old Chichen Itza. This is proper, purist Maya architecture. This architectural style, if you'll notice, it's very purposely built to have the most narrow section at the very bottom. So the most weight-bearing portion is not at all the widest.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It's so cool.
The common understanding here is that this structure is really celebrating the kind of tying together the underworld along with the surface world, and at the very top would be the heavens. What you see there are masks of the Maya water god. You'll notice if you can tell the mouth, he looks pretty angry. The nose is there.
Okay, there's
you
the
can
mouth
even
right
see
here.
the one on the very far left. It really accentuates the raindrops that are above his eyeball.
Oh yeah.
These.
And also, if you look a little bit to the right, do you see the seashells? Just
These
right
here?
there,
Yep.
right there.
I was gonna say this kind of looks one of these. These sort of look a little bit like the Egyptian crowns, like the bowling pin hat. But yeah, I know it's not. It's not
Seashells.
seashells. And then would it be the same over here?
It in all likelihood would have been the same with what's left of it.
So this is a nose.
Yeah, what's the curved part coming out? I was just about to ask that.
Well, funny enough, something about the Maya that you definitely don't mention on a conventional tour. They were very much about celebrating phallic protrusions. That, you know, their view on all of that was just different than like a modern Western view. They were more about fertility and reproduction. So that would be something a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and it looks, you know, like a elephant trunk.
That's what I thought too. Of course, they shouldn't have known about elephants, right?
Or a snake. I mean,
yeah.
I'm going. I
coming
hear
out of
you
his
on the
nose.
elephant. It definitely gives you a resemblance to elephants.
It's a prominent proboscis.
oh, it's coming out. It's coming out of his mouth. Is that
Definitely
what
the
you're saying?
nose.
It's his
like
nose.
the
His mouth
It's
is
his nose.
underneath.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
the
Call it
mouth.
the elongated nose.
Okay.
That is really cool. That's a beautiful structure. I love
It
the way
is.
they built all these like little geometric shapes into the blocks here. And
Yeah.
very cool stuff. And
The
then
very bottom of that structure had a lot of reference to the underworld, and you can really see how the underworld, when we think of an underworld, is very dark. And so you'll notice that it plays on darkness to not show you anything.
Oh, okay. That's what I was going to say. You think so? This is originally not supposed to be adorned with any type of artwork.
No, it's very purposeful. If you
How-
enter the underworld, you need a flame. You need light. You
Yeah.
can't see it. It's dark. So it plays on the darkness and mystery of the underworld.
Is that door right there facing south?
Well, would you believe I've never checked that? That's something that I should check. So next time I'm in the neighborhood.
How much reconstruction?
Wait. You can't just call down there to somebody. You're not
I should be
connected.
able to at this point. I'm not
Just
very-
call up somebody and ask if
Let's
it's
get 'em on
facing
Zoom.
south.
How much reconstruction was done on these sites? Was this found basically intact, or do you know if they rebuilt it?
I think that is a very sensitive topic because the mainstream acceptable approach towards reconstruction has changed over time.
Yeah.
The most important reconstruction done at Chichen Itza was done in the very early 1900s. You cannot really talk about the beginning of Maya history without bringing up Stevens and Catherwood. Stevens and Catherwood were, not really diverting too much from your original question, but these gentlemen actually, before photographs, they went around the Yucatan Peninsula painting the structures. We didn't have cameras, so they painted remains. And their paintings were a little bit of a map for proper reconstruction if needed at all. So sometimes in the early 1900s, it was actually American archaeologists that did a lot of the rebuilding. Many don't know, but Chichen Itza used to belong to an American by the name of Edward Thompson for a few years, and there was a lot of work done. He had a close relationship with the Peabody Museum. Some extraction of artifacts that's a little bit controversial depending on who you ask, but there has been some, and
Yeah.
I can tell you that there was a very purposeful effort to keep continuity from the evidence of the paintings from Frederick Catherwood.
I remember reading too that I'm not sure which pyramids it was, but there were, these guys were basically just digging into the side of his very early days. They may have more been like looking for treasure or whatever, but apparently there was some like sheets of mica.
That's Teotihuacan.
Teotihuacan that were hauled out of there. Have you heard of this?
The most controversial that I've heard of Teotihuacan would be finding liquid mercury.
Yeah.
The sheets of mica is something that I hadn't had the chance. Teotihuacan is a site that I visit purely for leisure. I've only visited it twice. So I'm sure that just reminds me that I may need to take another visit out there.
Well,
Wow, you got a lot of homework on your plate.
I was going to save the mercury question to the very end, but you just, all right, fine.
Beat you to it, huh?
Okay, so what's the deal now that we've stepped in it?
Well, no, that was so part of the thing about the discovery of this chamber underneath the pyramid where
Pyramid of the Sun.
There was this what they were saying might look like somewhat of a contour map on the floor. First, they found these a lot of these little like ball bearing type things that were
strange spheres.
They
weren't spherical really. They were just like
they were iron pyrite.
Yeah.
So fool's gold. There was a whole bunch of fool's gold balls covered in like a clay or something. It was really strange.
Yep.
And then they looking at the floor of it, and of course the interpretation was that this was again the underworld, all that type of thing. But they, the liquid mercury supposedly came in as like water. It was like the representation of the rivers and lakes and cenotes or whatever.
Yeah, it's wild.
I think they had an understanding as well that the mercury would have been poisonous. And, and we believe it would have at some point had some kind of an ADT security system there. I didn't get to see the actual layout of it, but I know that as an example in the Maya world, if you've ever heard of the Red Queen, Pacal's mother in the site of Palenque, she was covered in cinnabar specifically as a poison for anyone that would try to
rob the grave,
to molest her tomb in any way.
Yeah. Okay. So they were using the So you put liquid mercury somewhere, it's gonna have gas, and then you close off the chamber. It's basically a chamber full of deadly gas.
Yeah.
For a long time. That's really interesting. Tomb traps.
That's cool.
So have they found any original burials underneath or inside any pyramids in Mexico?
Well,
aside from Palenque.
That is such a great question. Unlike what we believe was an understanding for many ancient structures that would have been built as mausoleums in other parts of the world, in the Maya world, for example, not so. Teotihuacan, not so. So the best way to describe it is it's almost like the difference between saying there were remains found, but there's no concrete evidence to show that the structure was built as a tomb.
Yeah.
It's almost like the difference between saying, someone of important status decides, is able to have their remains placed in a church, but that doesn't mean that the church was built as a tomb for their remains. It really is more along those lines. There are cavities that have been found, but if I could say the poster child of all of the structures of the Americas for ancient civilizations, or at the very least North America, because we know South America is a totally separate can of worms that puts a lot of mainstream history upside down.
Yeah.
But at the very least in North America, there is the temple that found in Palenque, Chiapas. This temple of I don't know if you've ever seen if maybe you're able to pull up Pacal, up Pacal, Mayan king. And you'll see that this is something that the History Channel has actually talked a lot about. And we know there's certain shows that have different angles to archaeology that we won't be mentioning so specifically. But this is when they really get creative. And a big source for that creativity comes from this structure where there was actually a proper sarcophagus. Now, when you mention a sarcophagus, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Now there is undeniable evidence that a structure was built specifically for the purpose of being a tomb. The temple where this sarcophagus was found, this particular temple, the sarcophagus is so absolutely massive. There's just absolutely no way to get it in. You have to build a sarcophagus and then build a temple around it.
Oh, okay.
I gotcha.
So that's an outlier.
I think Kyle found it. He's going to share it.
Yeah.
Now, if you could add there the sarcophagus, so it could maybe even be that much more specific.
Yeah, you want the lid to
Is
the
that-
sarcophagus.
is
The
this-
lid,
this-
yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
You got it, Russ. That's the structure. That's the very large and imposing structure. I mean, if we had a person standing
this-
next to it to understand the scale, it's a very large structure. But
It's-
specifically the lid of the sarcophagus.
Scroll
is
up a
something
bit.
That I would guess
There you go.
a viewer or two may have found this or on a specific history, very creative. Exactly.
Yeah, so people have argued that he's in some kind of machine, that he's operating some object. It's some kind of technology.
Very sophisticated.
He's got his feet on pedals. Yeah. It's a spaceship, bro. That's what they're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love the having the plane and the color. The mainstream acceptance here is that once he passed, he became a corn god.
Of course.
The point that you all brought up is it definitely stirs the imagination, and you got the control pedals and the handles, and he's it's a Star Wars scene, and he's controlling his his-
Hey, we're not afraid to talk about spaceships here on Snake Bros.
It's all fair game.
This is interesting. All these little things bordering it.
And you kind of
That's
see
definitely
a
a saxophone
cross.
right
Yeah,
there.
that's
too.
a sax.
Yeah, that's definitely a saxophone.
But you
the
see
sky sax.
an obvious cross there, too.
Yeah, there's a cross.
Yep.
Really nicely. That's a beautiful cross. Yeah, I love this. This
So
could
this
be
is one,
could be rocket fuel or hair. Could be this dude's hair.
yeah.
Exactly. So bringing up tombs, this is it. This is the poster child.
Yeah,
For the tomb, we're looking at the lid of a sarcophagus that would 15 grown men couldn't move it.
And
Yeah.
it would have been, and it was inside this.
Down under. Yeah. Down under it.
Exactly. So Russ, I don't know how much you had a chance to hear about that one. That one's from the discoveries from the 1960s. I mean, it was a floor of rubble.
Yeah.
The work done to actually find it. I mean, there was some serious effort for that to never be found.
Yeah, whoever put it down there then completely filled the descending passage with rubble, and they had to pull all the rubble out all the way down to get into the room where the sarcophagus is. Crazy.
Oh, okay.
So somebody really tried to, make
And they
it
didn't know
inaccessible.
while doing it that that's what they were going to get to.
They
It
knew
just-
something was down there. It was
Yeah.
it was a passageway, but it was completely
Yeah.
filled with rubble.
So is this? You say this is the poster child? How many more are there, or is this the one?
This is the one, with the sarcophagus.
It's the one. Exactly,
The
Russ.
one.
Yeah.
You got it.
Now-
yes, this is not common.
We're looking at protruding staircases. So is this classic?
Classic. Yes. There's
Good
gonna be
job,
a quiz
Kyle.
at the end- at
I'm
the end.
learning stuff, folks.
Good job.
Good job, Kyle.
You learned me something.
Learning some snake facts.
Yeah, this is cool.
Wasn't he also a tall person? Not a giant, but he was tall compared to what they think the Maya were. I've read that as well.
It's funny you say that, because that to this day is still very, very debated. Some say that, the Maya were very small, and some say that the doorways were purposely small so they could bow down and show reverence. So, and Pakal in particular, what I think stands out that's in the back of your mind, he lived to be extremely old.
That's right.
As reference, he lived to be into his 80s. The average Maya lived to be into their 30s.
Yeah, so he lived a long time. And I have read somewhere in multiple places that he was a tall person, but I don't know if it's confirmed or not.
How tall?
Like, 6 feet. Like,
That would have been an NBA center for their time.
Right, yeah. Would have been a tall person.
Okay.
Not a giant, just a tall guy. Like, stood out.
And maybe a lot of it could have been with his nutrition, because nutrition of the commoners is very, it's believed that they had a tough go at it.
Yeah.
So is this
They had to eat salt. That's all they got paid.
so the
Salt and like it.
That's right.
so the archaeologists extracted this thing. Did they just take the lid, or did they take the box too?
No, they didn't take it out of there.
Oh, it's still in there. It's
You
still,
can't get it out.
It can't be gotten out. So
Right.
the pyramid was built on top of it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's, yeah.
Wow, that's
Conclusive evidence
that's
that
really
it was
cool.
built as a tomb.
very
And
nice.
yes, and also I think you used to be able to go down there, but not anymore. I think they closed it off some years
They
ago.
did. They
Yeah.
did close
And
it
is-
off for
is it-
different reasons. Unfortunately, it's past our time. We won't be able to get in there
Yeah.
unless we make some friends down there.
Right.
All right, let's make friends down there. So is
Yep.
this?
Step
we're gonna have to
one.
Go, Stella plural. Stellas. Bring some Stellas.
We'll bring the Stellas, bro.
That's not
So
a problem.
is this also limestone? Did they build with granite at all, or
I was going to ask that as well. What kind of stone?
Did they-
use?
Are there granite artifacts?
Very common component for them is limestone. It just so happens that the Maya world is wealthy in limestone.
Yep.
Yes.
Did you notice, for example, Laura, when you went to Tulum, when you landed at the airport, did you notice how much unused land this area has?
I guess maybe.
She was just too excited to go party.
Very understandable. You were needing that swimming pool and that swim up bar.
I was just chatting with my friend on the plane.
Well, specifically this area is I mean, the Yucatan Peninsula is a 75,000 square mile bed of limestone.
Yeah.
And even then, there's still quite a bit of limestone deposit in the bordering Central American areas. So definitely limestone.
So are there any prominent like basalt or granite artifacts?
Olmec
any
heads.
artifacts made from stone other than limestone?
Not that I've ever ran into specifically of the Maya.
Yeah.
As much as I do have a passion for other ancient civilizations of Mesoamerica, my bread and butter is the Maya.
Yeah.
And I've yet to run into anything of substance. The only thing that I've ran into is either the volcanic, made of volcanic mineral, or obsidian to be specific, or made of a jade. You know, we say jade, but specifically it's jadeite. So
Okay.
jadeite would have been something very, very valuable to them. That would have been of a harder, more difficult to manipulate.
Yeah.
But that's all I have actually ran into.
I think the Olmec heads are basalt. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely need to brush up on our Olmec history.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We're gonna come down there and we are gonna brush up on all of it.
Now that we know how to recognize
Yes.
the classic,
Yeah.
pre-classic, and post-classic structures, we can definitely go down there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we'd like to have you back on.
Awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'd love to be here. I love what you all are building here. I actually went as far as reading the comments from your audience, and your audience is very fond. Definitely know what you're doing, so I'd love to be back on.
They're
Oh,
great
so you
people.
watched us and you're like, wait, let's see if everyone
Let's see what
likes
people
them.
actually say.
Hey, Brothers of the Serpent had me when one of the brothers sent $50 for beer money. I knew I was at the right place.
We love our audience so
Yeah, we
much.
do.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, anything else you want to say? We're up on an hour here. We can take another break or call it.
Hey, well, I think we always have to leave a little teaser for our audience for a future pod. So this is just the beginning of the Mesoamerica, a little closer to the backyard.
Yep.
I love it.
Of Brothers of the Serpent.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, John. We really
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thanks for having me, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, brothers of the Serpent podcast. And yeah, I feel like we learned a lot.
Absolutely.
That was really good. A lot of fun. And
Definitely.
of course, we need to study this area, these sites more.
But as we've learned, no matter how much you study, you got to
Yeah,
go there.
you
and
gotta
see it.
go.
And that's definitely in the plans.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, we got to get down there.
Yep.
We got to take a group and go, and
Yep.
look, and ask questions, and not figure it out.
That's right.
That's right.
Exactly right.
That's exactly what happens every time.
But you drink beers and you have a good time, and you come back
That's
with
also
pictures and
right.
videos.
Yep.
Also true.
This is very true.
Drink Stella's. Stella's.
Stella's.
Stella's.
Tecate.
I forgot about
Caramba.
that beer.
With some Cholula hot sauce?
Cholula hot sauce in my Tecate.
Where are the goat beers, by the way? I guess I was kind of expecting.
You have to throw me under the bus on the last segment when I don't have an opportunity to go get one during the break.
Sorry.
I mean, we technically have 2 more segments. So, right?
I'm just saying the goat beers are in the
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We could do
kitchen,
2
and I
segments
see
here.
them, and
Yeah.
here I am on the show, second time in a row. There's been no goat beer. I don't know, just
I brought a goat beer in the last round.
okay. All right.
Yeah? Did you? On the live?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I brought it on the live
Oh, okay.
for sure.
Well, since the interview's over, we can do the beginning of the show. We can tackle Space Weather News and
Crap, I forgot about space weather news.
And Kyle's back to work.
Space Weather News from spaceweather.com. That's right. I took that job from Kyle, but since I'm all the way back here, I can't reach the buttons. So now he gets to do it. But a CME.
You failed on your second day on the job.
That's right. It's actually her job now. It's
Lost.
just right there.
Lost
Oh
your
my
job.
gosh, I would have loved. I've been wanting to push
Thanks,
buttons.
Russ. Now you've really upset her.
Well, but I was going to say he's been so gracious with headphones and where I'm sitting in the room. He's really been an amazing
She's got
big
my
brother,
seat.
guys.
She's got my
He's been
headphones.
so
She's got my spot.
nice. Yes. And he just willingly gave it. I was like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "No, no, no." And
Yeah,
I was
I'll
like,
sit back here.
but every time I'm coming in here, I think I want to get to push a button. So next time, if I can push the button, I would love that.
Well, they're all labeled over there. If you feel like one of them matches what you say.
Well, I didn't have any authorization, so I wasn't going to dare.
All right, a CME just hit Earth. A coronal mass ejection hit Earth on May 9th. The impact did not spark an immediate geomagnetic storm, but storms are in the offing as Earth passes through the CME's strongly magnetized wake. High-latitude skywatchers should be alert for auroras on May 9th and 10th. And strong solar flare activity continues. Reversed polarity sunspot AR3296 just unleashed a double solar flare. You can watch closely spaced explosions in movies from NASA's Solar Dynamic Observatory. There's an extreme ultraviolet radiation from the double blast, which ionized the top of Earth's atmosphere, causing a shortwave radio blackout over North America and the Pacific Ocean. Mariners and ham radio operators may have noticed loss of signal at frequencies below 25 megahertz between 1900 and 2100 UT on May 9th. This is
here WD5 in the middle.
That's exactly what it sounded like. This explosion also hurled a CME into space, possibly toward Earth. Stay tuned for updates.
So why are they calling it a reverse polarity? Is that what they call all of the sunspots in this cycle?
I'm not sure why.
Or is that one
I think this
specifically
one
reverse-
specifically is reverse polarity to the sun's main
That's-
magnetic field.
yeah.
As it
And
is.
what was the double?
It was the old double blast.
Yeah, it exploded twice, one right after the other.
Classic.
Yeah. Current conditions.
That's
solar.
when you use the boom button, babe.
There you go. That
The
was
old double
the
blast.
old double blast. Current conditions, solar wind speed is 547.4 kilometers per second. Density is very high, 19.85 protons per cubic centimeter. Sunspot number right now is 103. And the neutron count is 2.7% below the space age average, so minus 2.7%. And KP index is 4.67,
So
which is unsettled.
We've had this like dip in the space age average. It's because for so many years it was above.
Right, during minimum.
During the solar minimum.
Right, and now that the sun is very active again, the
gone
neutron
below.
count is dropping way down because it's blocking
I
most.
knew it.
Yeah, it was clear. It was clear.
I could totally tell the neutron count is down.
Good job, babe.
Yeah, it really has a big effect.
But there are a lot of protons right now per
I
cubic
know.
centimeter. I mean, almost 20.
That's rough.
Almost 20 protons per cubic
rough.
centimeter. This is a big deal. Yeah.
It's
It
rough.
makes the bugs bigger, I'm pretty sure, the proton count.
And a double boom boom.
All right. That's
Double
your-
boom boom bugs.
Yeah, that makes
Bad.
This is Space Weather News for the week with commentary.
Okay, is the ag update coming up? Can I push that button?
No. It's wet. I don't want to do an ag update. I was in the mud all day and injected.
I finished labeling 6,600 and something bottles.
Whoa!
So-
Russ.
Very nicely done.
That
They
is
look
an
good.
ag update that I'm proud to deliver.
He's got them all packed up. They look great.
Yep.
He did a great job. Now he's wandering around like I have nothing to do.
I
I'm going
don't
home.
know what to do.
He's just like he just
my
left.
career is over. I've been sitting in front of that labeling machine for so long on this job that I'm like, what other stuff did I used to do here back in ancient history?
Yeah,
How are the bees?
The bees are doing fantastic.
we're gonna harvest. He's gonna harvest. This
I
year.
am
What do you
He
mean?
sent a fantastic
Wait,
email.
what
He
does
sent a
that
perfect
mean?
email to the
perfect
boss.
email to the boss.
Perfect.
Oh.
Perfect email. And yeah, he was just like, I want to harvest honey this year, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to need to buy this. And then the response was, Kyle has a credit card.
Yeah, that's how you know it's perfect.
Yeah.
When you have to
Here's
ask the
the
boss
money.
for a bunch of money and he's like, yes, you sent a good email.
Good job, Russ. Wow.
Well, I was inspired. I went out to check the bees after doing all this labeling, and I was sitting in my car next to the hives. I already went out to remove the winterization stuff earlier, right? So last week or the week before, I went out there and put on the screens, which is for the summer, which allows airflow through the hive so they don't get too hot in there. And I was just looking in the tops of the boxes. I'm like, man, they filled them up. So I added some supers to
Supers,
some.
man, I saw them. They're tall now.
Yeah.
The beehives are
Some what?
the box that goes on. You just keep adding boxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the ones that
So
are
they-
on top of the eggs, like where they actually make brood,
Yeah.
are called supers.
So you have hive boxes. Those are the deep ones. And now all hives have 2 hive boxes that they've filled up with honey and brood.
Wow.
And then on top of that are supers, which they're not as deep, but that's where you put a queen excluder so the queen can't get up there and lay eggs, which means all they put up there is honey. That's where you harvest the honey from. So I had added some supers last year, but this year I was able to put the rest of them with supers and even add another one to one of the hives, which is so it's really
it's looking
tall.
very respectable.
Yeah, they are respectable
Yeah.
hives.
I drove by there today and I was like, that is a respectable beekeeping operation.
I need to go check it out.
So many years, it was definitely we were trying to hide it from everyone.
It's
They're
like
"Oh,
one
we don't have
box.
bees?" Don't. Yeah.
So we're not even sure if they're still in there. Yeah.
I'm going to go check it out.
And 2 of the hives are frequently doing what they call bearding right now, which is like right here at the end of spring when they're really getting busy going out. There's flowers everywhere. There's so many of them outside the hive doing work that they form like a beard at the entrance, which is a sign that they're really going well.
Thriving.
Yeah.
No shave November.
Yeah.
That's when it happens. Not in the spring.
This is a bee beard, right?
Okay. It's different.
The hive has a beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, I talked to the boss about, I was sitting there in front of the hives looking at them, one of them with a big beard on it, and I'm like, yeah, we can get honey this year. So,
Okay.
previous times I've harvested honey, it's been one frame. right? The hives have 10 frames in them per box, right? It's 10 frames across. So in this, I would open up and get one frame out of one super and all the way at the edge, which is where they put the least amount of stuff.
They start in the center.
They start in the center, and it's like it forms a sphere, right, as it goes outwards. So if they have stuff all the way to the edge, then you know that they've got a surplus. So I would pull a frame out of one of the hives that had filled the box all the way to where one of the edge frames had material on it, honey and capped honey, basically. And I would harvest one frame manually, which is a huge pain. You know, you scrape it off there, and that destroys the comb, the honeycomb, which means the bees have to build new honeycomb. Like I would put a new frame in there as I took the other one. So you scrape it off there, and then you got to warm it up very carefully because you don't want it to get it over a certain temperature, or it destroys the enzymes. So you warm it up very carefully, and then the wax will like float to the top. You skim it off there, and then you pour it through a filter. And oh my god, it's a huge pain when you're doing it.
You hear
manually.
that, folks?
It was delicious.
Turtle Creek honey has been passed through this.
Yeah. So this year, if we harvest honey, I'm going to have a centrifuge
Okay.
and a comb fork, which like allows you to puncture the caps on the honey without destroying the comb. It just puts a little tiny hole in there. Then you slide the frame into the centrifuge, turn it on, and it spins it and slings all the honey out to the outside. And then you can take the frame back out of there with the comb still on it and put it back in the hive, and they don't have to rebuild all that wax.
That's good.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, there's a lot of details, but I told the boss I was like, look, I think they're big enough and healthy enough this year. And if we have a good year with a bunch of flowers, and it looks like we're getting that because we've been getting a lot of rain.
Yep. So much rain.
Like last year was a big drought, and I was worried. But this year's lots of rain. There's flowers everywhere. The bees are going nuts. So I think we're going to be able to harvest. And I want proper equipment if I'm going to harvest an entire super, 10 frames of honey.
Yeah, if you're going to be professional, you're going to have the proper equipment.
Yeah.
And for that, somebody somewhere has to bust out the wallet.
Right. I told him. We need a centrifuge, and I want an electric one. I'm not going to sit there and crank, you know. So that's the ag update.
Okay.
Wait. Wait, I got one thing.
Oh, Kyle's got something.
All I've been hearing from Kyle lately when he comes home from work, or when I call him when he's at work, is something about injections. We have a lot of injections going on, and I don't know what it means.
Okay, so I am injecting nutrients into the. So in our vineyard we have a drip system, right? So we ran big trunk line underground,
irrigation drip,
and the water pipes come up, and then there's this little drip tube, and then we put the emitters on there, so that we know that every emitter is a half gallon per hour. Each vine has 2 emitters, so each vine gets a gallon of water per hour when we water. And because you can control it like that, then you can inject into the water line some nutrients. So like they need iron.
That's cool.
Chelated iron. They need magnesium sulfate or Epsom salt. They need there's a systemic insecticide, which is unfortunate, but we have to use it. And it prevents Pierce's disease because there's a type of moth that is there's a lot of them here, and they carry this disease. And if they actually stab in through the bark on the vine. It's a moth. It's it's what they call a sharpshooter.
Yeah. Okay.
But they're basically they look like sort of like a moth.
Okay. For some reason, I thought it was like a cricket, or not a cricket, but like it's a grasshopper.
It's called a sharpshooter.
Okay, so it's a moth type of thing.
They're not. Yeah, they're a flying bug.
Okay.
And they kind of look like a moth. And you can notice them, like they'll sit on a tree trunk, like a little tree trunk or whatever. And when you come up, they run around to the other side. They hide from you. And then if you go and look at them, they're real quick. They run sideways.
Oh, okay.
So we have those. So I have to do these injections, and I bought a system that basically it's water driven. So when I turn on the irrigation, a pump starts running because I'm pushing water through this thing, and then it actually draws. So I can measure out exactly how much nutrient that they need, And
Based on the 1 gallon per hour per plant.
yeah.
and
So on the
forth.
hillside, there's 4,000 vines.
Yeah.
So every hour puts out 4,000 gallons
Right.
of water. And
Wow.
I can measure out, like, I know how, like, the label of whatever, or, you know, whatever the prescription is. Like, if I'm putting nitrogen in there, it's like you need 2 gallons of this 3200 per acre. So I'll put 4 gallons, or if it's a 3-acre place, I'll put 6 gallons in there, and then turn the irrigation on and run it for however long I need to water it in. Thankfully, it rained, so I didn't have to water it in with the irrigation too much. So yeah, I didn't want to.
So that's the injections.
That's the injections.
It basically means he's injecting nutrients into the irrigation system.
Yeah,
And it sounds like it must not be fun or something's really bad about it.
I just don't.
He's just complaining.
No, I've mentioned it before that we have to use, in order to give these vines any kind of longevity, we have to use a lot of chemicals on them. Mm-hmm. Like, we use fungicides and insecticides. Texas is crazy insects here.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have crazy bugs.
And I just don't particularly like to talk about that. So that's why I was like, I don't really want to talk about what I'm doing right now. What I did want to talk about is, let's see if I can, nope, it's sharing this screen. I was going to try to show this image, but I just got this filter for the winery, and it's awesome. You guys can't see it.
Oh, well, just throw it up there and then switch the thing and switch back to it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, so I did some research on filters for the winery.
Or you can change. Yeah, you could also change. Sorry.
And it's basically, I'm buying sort of like a not very conventional filter. Like, a lot of people use what's called a plate and
I
frame.
heard you saying this, that you're getting a different one. Yeah.
This one is called a lenticular filter, and you can reuse the filter media. And plate and frame filters are like pads. You buy all these pads, and I'm going to show you what it is real quick. I'm trying to talk about it while doing this. That's it. So this top part is the housing. Obviously, you bolt it. It's like you put these things down. It's got a lot of different parts on it, but there's a stack, a column of filter media that you slide down on this thing, and then you put the top over it, and you run your wine in there.
You know what? I just realized this is,
What?
we don't actually know, and we have no way of finding out if OBS is showing this screen.
Okay. Yeah, sure it was. See? I can see it right there. There it is.
Okay, good.
Anyway, I'm really excited. I just put it together today, and we've got a couple of lots we're about to produce and bottle, and I needed that, since it's a white and a rosé, I needed to filter them. And
Soon I'll have a job again. We're gonna filter that stuff and bottle it, and then I will be back on the labeling
yeah,
machine.
we'll be doing that this week. I hope. I hope. So that's that.
That's- all right, that's the ag update,
And now
yeah.
I push the button.
Yeah. Hold it.
Oh,
God dang it.
God dang.
I screwed it up. I didn't know. I thought it was just you push.
Yeah, I didn't do the trigger and freewheel because you accidentally push the wrong button sometimes, and then you can't stop it.
Oh.
So it's yeah, because I'm always like, I go to Space Weather News, and I'm like, yeah, let's. So
It used to be the Monty Python,
yeah, it was always the mic.
the French guy.
Everything's all messed up in here. We were doing the live, and I had this.
Yeah.
All right,
show
let's get to
must-
some
yeah.
emails.
Let's
doing
get to-
emails?
I want to hear from these people.
Okay.
Who are you? Where are you coming from?
And I
What you
really
gotta
do
say?
love listener communications. I know the last time I was on, I was like,
She only says that on air. She doesn't.
but I actually really do love it. I don't know what had gotten into me. The piss and the vinegar, I guess.
Hey, we don't say those kinds of words on this family
Oh,
show.
she's been swearing like
I'm
crazy. I was like,
so
you were the one that told us to
sorry.
stop. She's like, we're going down there to do some Snake Bro shit. I'm like,
Sorry.
Just in case anyone in the audience was wondering, Laura has a very excellent swear vocabulary.
Yeah.
She does.
It's very respectable.
So when it comes to the back of the bus,
She can't be there. So
it makes me sick to be back there, but just because I feel like I'm car sick. But I want everyone to know that in spirit, my vocabulary is with you daily. I really am the bridge between the back of the bus and the front of the bus.
we'll see what the back of the bus folk have to say about
Yeah, I mean, you know.
I know. Kyle's not
It
giving me
is.
hope.
It's actually a physical location.
I know.
It's not just
I
a
know.
mentality.
I know. We'll see how what I just said
It ain't
goes
gonna
over,
go
and
well.
let's go on to the first email. Let's get away from that topic.
All right. We have many tomes today, but they're good. So this one is. I don't know what to. I guess I won't say your name. I'll give the email name, which is great. Oilfield Trash 12 is the email name. It's called Real World Heavy Lifting Experience. Brothers, I am a maintenance foreman for my company in the Gulf of Mexico offshore. I've spent my whole career, about 22 years worth, lifting, moving, sliding, and removing huge loads off of boats and onto platforms. Then sliding them, lifting them, and placing them in exact locations so that everything lines up. Believe it or not, we work in and with tolerances to match machine shops. Our alignments and repairs are within 0.000 to 0.040, depending on what part of the machinery we are dealing with. He doesn't give a...
Wow.
Yeah, I'm guessing CM. I don't know. The lifts we make can be up to...
I think that's inches.
Could be inches, yeah. The lifts we make can be up to 50,000 to 200,000 pounds. We are mostly capped no matter what size crane we can use around 100 tons. I know exactly what can and can't be done with our modern machinery. I understand completely what our limitations are with the technology we have right now. I have been obsessed with ancient stone moving my whole life. I have absorbed almost every written or watched pieces of information I can get my hands on. Even with all the things I've seen suspended in air at the weights we deal with, I am awestruck how our ancestors completed the absolute freakish feats they did with huge stone blocks. There are so many complications involved in what they accomplished, and I mean literally huge complications. There is no way that these things were done the way our so-called experts tried to tell us they did. When I listen to all of the talk about how they were made and by who, I feel like we are bypassing the most important issue: logistics and capability to move and place these monumental stone blocks, especially over great distances. When we load a 200-foot boat to bring us our lifts, you would be surprised at how quickly that room is taken up. So how you would remove, lift, load, lift, unload, and then set in place is beyond me. So, said with rope and wooden tooling, it is truly laughable. I would love to have a conversation with you all just to express some of the difficulties of these types of lifting operations. Maybe just to help everyone understand the mountains of issues they would have doing these things with the rigging that the historians are saying they use. I by no means can say how they accomplished it, but I can tell you how they did not, for sure. Thank you for all your time, and keep up the great work, and have a great day.
Man, that is great.
Yeah.
That's really great to hear from somebody who actually does this all the time.
Yes. That was really cool.
For us, we look at it and we're like, well, we've kind of lifted some heavy loads with like some fairly powerful machines.
Yeah, but nothing like that.
Nothing like
the
that.
oil
That's
field
awesome.
stuff is like, on a whole other scale.
I
Some of
would
the
like
biggest
to know more about
Yeah,
this.
I would too. I think we might ought to get this dude on, maybe. I'll see. Or we can get Laura. Yeah.
She's got a fever.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
And the only cure is more guests.
Okay, let's see what we got here. This is called Egypt 2022 from Jared. So I have to say thank you guys. Thank you guys and Ben from Uncharted X for going strong and never stopping the beautiful work to bring us the ancient world in a way that many more are starting to look at. This is unorthodox. I have been listening for years, and I am an avid ancient history seeker since I was 12, and I am 38 coming soon this year. I love hearing all the theories and knowledge you guys are bringing to light, along with many others in this changing age of history. The one thing I love about you guys is also the music. I've been drumming since I was 10, and making music is special. I don't get to it much these days, but I love hearing people make music that moves you, moves us in a way that makes us feel like we are there or part of your journeys through these ancient places. And by the ancients, the last song from Egypt hit me like a serpent in the sky. Effing beautiful, you guys. Thank you. Thank you for bringing us, the ones who can't afford to go or be there, be a part of that feeling. It's just out of this world for sure. After the last Egypt tour podcast with Ben, you guys played a lot of music through it. I want that last song. I will pay. It is amazing. Great job. I feel it in my soul and wish one day to afford a trip with everyone to ride along the journey with you two, Ben and Randall and whoever else. Keep doing what you're doing for all of us. Thank you, from Jared, a seeker of ancient history's truth.
Wow, thank you.
That's cool. So I think there's a couple of things. I think he's talking about, as far as the song goes, the jam that we did at the beach.
It's either the jam from the beach or it's
I'm pretty sure
Salam.
that was when yes, it's either one of those.
Yeah.
So you should put that jam from the beach on the Patreon.
Yeah. And then
And-
they'll both be there. Because
Yes.
Salam is up there, yeah.
Yeah, but also if you want to see the, if it's Salam, if you want to see the progression that's happening with the writing of that song, you can go to the Dynasty Patreon.
Ah, there you
Because
go.
there's 3 versions, and it shows how like it went from the original one that I recorded on this, my Snake Bros brick in Egypt. And then the second version is when I came back here in this studio and redid some of the instrumentation and the vocals with these nice mics. And then the next version after that, Ty's guitar comes in. So it's kind of,
That's cool.
it's still working
Yeah.
Yeah,
progress.
I told this story, but after the tour ended, Ben and Kyle and I went and got some rooms in a hotel nearer to Yusuf's place to chill for a couple of days before we went to Sharm el Sheikh with Yusuf. And the whole time, Ben and I are hanging out, and Ben's like, "Well, where's Kyle?" I'm like, "He's working, bro. He's making music." Kyle's like hiding in stairwells.
Wait till the restaurant closes and sneak up there.
Sneak up to the restaurant after it closes so he can have some quiet. Yeah, making music on his phone. It was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
Good job, babe.
Thanks, babe.
And I guess we should throw out there that so on the live stream that we just played, what was it, 284? We played some more music of Kyle's that people have asked for, so I will be putting that on the Patreon as well.
Yeah, that one is a new one I've been working on, and I, even since that live stream, did a lot of work to it.
Yeah, so that one is going to be that one's going to be used on one of the upcoming produced videos we're making. Murray promised
be-
us money if we put that song on the Patreon.
You better freaking join the Patreon.
Yeah, we are not. Yeah.
This is the reason why we're putting it up there.
We're
is
putting it
'cause
up
Murray
there.
requested
Wow.
I don't actually
buddy.
believe he's going to do it.
Whoever you
Murray
are,
better do
you
it.
better-
He's a huge troll. Like, we learned this in the.
it. He was right about the sound, though. he was like, "Bro, your mic is too damn loud," and I was like, "Oh." And then Russell's like, "Bro, don't listen to
Don't
Murray."
listen to that guy.
I'm like, "No, he told me the mic."
Like,
Sure enough, I listened back.
Last live, he was like, "All I
was
hear
right.
is static." Right? That was his comment.
He was right.
Giant troll.
Don't listen to Russ,
Hey,
Murray.
this is your moment, Murray. This is your moment to really put this all to rest here.
Okay, so I got some Patreon uploads to do. So let's see. We got. This is the other thing that's been happening. It happens in this one, but now people are actually addressing Grumpy Morning Russ in their emails. Like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to talk to that guy. He doesn't want to talk to you, right? Don't talk to. Just pretend that
Yeah,
you're
don't
sending.
poke. Don't poke
Right.
there.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like, imagine Grumpy Morning Russ is like the screener. You don't
You're
talk
doing
to the
yourself.
screener in the email.
Yeah.
What did you say?
People do. People,
It's a
I'm
bad
not gonna
idea.
say the names,
It's a
but-
bad idea. You don't want to do it.
Snerdley was always being talked to.
I know.
Screen.
I know.
Freaking
I'm just telling you that, like, you don't want to talk to this guy. You know, he doesn't want to talk to you. He is reading your emails and screening them for
Yep.
someone else who is like podcast Russ. This
Yep.
is a different person. All right. Anyway, this one is
Quit doing that.
this one is from Travis. It's called "Dear Grumpy Morning Russ and Kyle."
Howdy, buddy.
See,
Well,
that's the
hold on,
thing.
hold on.
Okay.
All right, we're holding on.
I think that Kyle is sometimes
Grumpy Morning Kyle.
All right, go.
I want to get that out there on the podcast. Kyle always
We
says,
are not going to have.
Kyle always says, babe, just talk about it on the podcast. There we go, babe. Moving on.
Okay.
All right. So Travis says, I should have written to you guys about 100 times by now. I started listening somewhere around episode 100, and I'm now slithering through the back catalog for the third time.
Wow.
Wow.
Just last Tuesday, the 14th, as in 314, I came to an episode where you, Russ, announced it's Pi Day, and I coiled up and my dorsal scale stood on end. Everything moves in circles. I have heard that the reason for everything moving in circles is that we live in Maya, or the illusion of life, and that we are trying to break free. I imagine it is like being caught in the eddy alongside a river where the water stagnates.
Did he say we live in Maya?
Maya. That's
Whoa. That's interesting.
Yeah, M-A-I-A.
On this particular show.
Yeah, it is. It's M-A-I-A.
Close enough.
It's close.
Russ flagged it. He knew. He planned the whole thing.
We're having an Inception synchronicity here.
Dude. Whoa.
Okay. Where was I at here? Okay, so I imagine it's being like caught in the eddy. Well, you gentle snakes have brought the flood repeatedly to my small serpent mind, more times than I can even comprehend, and washed me out into the main channel of thought and imagination repeatedly over the past few years. I believe I have earned a doctorate in coprolite studies. The ignorance is strong with this one. It is delightful to me that as I go back through the catalog, ideas that I once poo-pooed now seem interesting or even plausible through these eyes. The question that is burning in my toilet paper wrapped head right now. He knows a lot of the jokes.
Yeah.
He's done it
He's
3
mummified.
times.
Yeah.
He's 3 rounds.
Yeah, why did they wrap people in toilet paper and bury them in triangles? Okay, so the question that is burning in my toilet paper wrapped head right now is, what do you crossbreed with a chimpanzee to get scales?
Kyle's trying to figure it out.
Not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the path I took to snakes, but I have listened to Rogan, Randall, and Graham for years now, and it's all a bit of an idea soup in my ArcLight baked brain. I weld by myself all day. And I listen up to 6 podcasts per day most days. But you, my dear brothers, are always in the daily rotation, and all week I am looking forward to the latest snake-sode.
Oh.
While listening, I am constantly bursting out into laughter or talking out loud to you guys. Fortunately, no one is around. I think to myself, I really need to write them and tell them this awesome thought that I just had about what they said. And then I sit in front of the computer and my mind goes blank. I wish I could convey to you two just what an impact you've had on me. My entire thought process has been shifted through our one-way friendship. I get practically all of your jokes, especially Monty Python and Hitchhiker's Guide. I have been known to shout, "It's only a model," so many times. Possibly the greatest lesson I could hope to learn from you two is to not get bent when somebody says, "You're wrong." The way you guys gracefully look at what is being said and then reply, "Well, yeah, I'm dumb," just makes me get all warm and fuzzy. I am working on taking myself that seriously, as if your companionship and fun rhetorical ramblings were not wonderful enough. You also provide epic tunes through $50 Dynasty, which I don't listen to nearly as often as I should. One of the missed synchronicities in my life that still haunts me is that back when I first found you, I listened to the episodes about your trip to Chimney Rock and Mesa Verde only 1 week after you had been here. You know that one dumb stoplight in the middle of nowhere between Durango and Mesa Verde? Yeah, well, 3 miles further into nowhere from there is where I live.
Oh, wow.
I was crushed to find that you, Serps, and Randall had driven by within 2,160 feet of my snake hole. Due to my being animal poor and just making ends meet, I doubt I'll be able to make it to meet you guys anytime soon. But, loner though I am, I already have 2 of the best friends, and I dare say brothers a man or snake could ask for. Well, I don't feel like this is a tome yet. Well, you're totally wrong. on that one, bro. This one is a tome, but worth reading. It was a tome, though. I don't feel like this is a tome yet, so I'll sign off now and just wish you, the snake fam, and the entire snake force a fond snakes from your serpentine brother. Thank you.
Man, that is
Thank
awesome.
you so
dude.
much.
Really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And snakes, back to you.
Holy crap. You know, I remember driving that van past that stoplight and being like, I don't know. Something's interesting about this spot.
Somebody's been
That was a
welding.
great
There's
email.
it's a little sneaky around here.
Okay. What do we got here? This is from Snake Bro Joe, and it's called Snakes. Hey, guys. My name is Joe, and I've been listening to you guys for almost a year now, and I love every episode. I wanted to start off by saying thanks for all you guys do. I really appreciate it. Second, I heard you guys mention on an episode that if people are not sure if there is any old mysterious ruins or anything of the like around them, to email you guys. And you guys know a lot of locations pertaining to ancient mysteries or ancient cultures in general. So I live in Phoenix, in Arizona, and I was wondering if you guys know of anything either ancient or mysterious at all in Arizona. I'm an avid hiker and explorer and a student of ancient knowledge and mysteries. Have a great day, from Snake Bro Joe.
Lots of interesting geology.
Yeah,
Well, you could go. Wait a minute. I'm trying to think of this. Was it Arizona? I get mixed up. We've done these trips out there in the Southwest.
Sedona?
Well, no, but what is it? Murray Springs?
Yeah, that's right on the. Isn't that right at the border to New Mexico or something?
think so,
Yeah,
somewhere-
but it's in Arizona. I'm pretty sure.
I think it's in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the you can walk in there. It's a little park. You can walk. You can park there. You can walk into the site. It's like unmarked.
Yeah.
Off this little highway.
yeah.
You go down there, and there's just the creek bed, and you walk down there, and there's the black mat. Like
Yeah.
you can clearly see the black mat layer all through this creek bed, and the site was an archaeological dig at some point.
Yeah, it was there was evidence for mammoth remains, so it
Yeah.
may have been a kill site or a butchery site, but there's also the, like Kyle said, the black mat, which is what makes it
Yeah.
very interesting.
So that's a good one.
yeah.
Lots of interesting geology in Arizona.
Yeah, and there's plenty of stuff. I mean, around Sedona, there's lots of stuff. I mean, we went and visited ruins on a hilltop there,
Tuzigoot.
Yeah, there's Tuzigoot. Yeah, Tuzigoot. Yeah,
There's like a giant cliff castle built into the wall, and then a huge. Oh wait, no, is that one? That
one's Montezuma's castle.
Montezuma's castle. Yeah.
Yeah. Tuzigoot was the big circular thing, right?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff. But what I would recommend is use Atlas Obscura. This is a great website. I tell people this now because, I still have it, a big list of stuff that from around the North America or whatever, but it's outdated. And a lot of the sites you can't get to, they're closed archaeological sites, so I have to sift through them. But Atlas Obscura is a website that is, you can use it to look for interesting and weird places to go in your area or any area you want to
That's
check.
cool.
So I recommend people use that as a resource because you can tell it like I want archaeological sites or geological stuff, or just look and see what it has in weird and strange. It'll give you weird museums with strange stuff in them that you would never find
It's a
otherwise.
much better
and just
idea.
like lots of cool sites. Yeah. So Atlas Obscura is
that's cool.
fantastic.
But I still highly recommend Murray Springs.
Yes. Yeah.
That was a big, just
is that
like.
where Murray Murray comes from?
I thought that's what I thought too. There's so many synchronicities happening here. But yeah, when I walked down there, I had this moment. Like after learning all of this stuff about that, catastrophic end to the last epoch from Randall, and then walking down in that site and looking at that veil that covers that last age, the last world. It's like, man, it hit me. That was really crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were down there in, it was sundown. It was twilight, I don't know.
Yeah, it was definitely the time between times.
Man,
Yeah,
you should go there.
you should. Did we miss the break? We did.
I was just thinking
we got
about a
15
break.
more minutes. Let's just roll.
Okay. Calling the shots over there. Kyle calling the shots.
Producer.
Okay. This is from Michael, and he says he was phone. Oh, wait.
He was phone. What does that mean?
How does he know that? Did we talk about that?
I know. He says, I had a dream, and there was a phone.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
He was phone. Okay. Hello, Snake Bros. Yeah, some people will get that
get
joke.
that.
Hello, Snake Bros. Long-time listener here, first-time emailer. I did donate once, technically twice, and you read my message on the podcast, but I Johnsoned it and had to donate again because I forgot to leave a message on the first donation. Like a good Johnson, nothing is ever done right unless you do it twice.
I love that.
That's great.
Classic John.
Yeah. Anyway, I got to make this quick, so here is my dream. I was around 7 years old, and it was 1983. I'm in my parents' bedroom, and my parents are fighting with this man that looks like the Toxic Avenger. I am terrified, screaming, and wanting to get away from this monster who has me in a bear hug, and his purpose, or so-called move, is to bite you on the shoulder so he can turn you into a monster too, but his downfall is that he can't bite you through your shirt. So he has to pull up your sleeve to bite you. While this monster tries to pull my sleeve up to bite me, I quickly pull it back down, and we go through this motion a few times, and then my mom comes out of nowhere and smashes this guy with something, and he lets me go. But in the struggle, he grabs my mom. So now I'm free, mom's in a bear hug, and now I am standing in the corner of the room by the phone. With all the commotion going on, I want to save my mom, so I tried to call the police with the phone. I pick up the old rotary phone, and guess what happens? I am never able to dial the number because you can't use a phone in a dream. No matter how hard I tried, I could not dial. Some invisible force is stopping me from dialing. I had that dream several times over my childhood when we lived in that house. And when I moved, I never had it again. I remember trying so hard to use that phone, but like in other dreams I have, you're just not allowed to do some things as you would when you're not dreaming. I would reference the episode where y'all were talking about phones and technology in dreams, but I can't remember, and I suffer from CRS, which is I can't remember shit. I'm a huge fan of the podcast, and Brothers of the Serpent is definitely the best podcast I have ever heard. Kyle and Russ, thank you for what you do. Keep up the good work. Snakes! From your fellow snake brother, Michael. Michael Hale, a.k.a. Pyramid, in the Discord.
Oh, okay. Thanks, buddy.
Great email.
Appreciate
Great dream.
it. So he was trying to use a rotary
A
phone.
rotary phone.
Not even.
Still
yeah.
can't do it.
Still can't even.
But the
do
phone was there.
it. Okay.
So that's interesting.
Maybe his fingers were just too big to get in the holes.
I have also, since talking about this, have had several dreams where I've either tried to use a tablet or a phone. They never work. You know, so now
remember
I
you
have
guys
like
talking
I
about
still
this.
think that these objects that we have in our hands almost all day, every day, don't show up in dreams often enough. But when they do show up, they completely fail to operate properly. So it is interesting.
If you have a dream of using a cell phone or a tablet and it worked perfectly, email the show.
Yeah.
yeah,
Write us.
because I've seen other comments where people are like, I had the phone and it did work, but I couldn't. The numbers weren't the right ones, or
Yeah.
the symbols were wrong, or it didn't. So even people who said that they made a call, it
Yeah.
something is wrong with the device.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting
There's
stuff.
definitely something wrong with
Yeah,
those devices.
yeah. We need to keep thinking about this.
Okay, I just,
Appreciate the email.
Yeah.
All right, next.
I lost my place. Let me see. Where was I at here? Sorry.
It's all good.
Scroll down. Okay, here we go. We did receive a response. So this, I don't know if we should. We read an email last communications episode from Xander, Commander Xander, about pi. You remember this? He was talking about how we were saying pi is something strange, and he.
Oh, yeah.
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 So he responded to our reading it. He says, "Thunder and lightning, the great snakes read my email. Good morning, Russ. Don't do that. Don't do it. You were very correct when you clarified that you did not come to the conclusion with pi, but rather you were speculating. It's an important distinction, and I'm not nitpicking at all. Words have meaning, and this teeny tiny snakelet will be more careful in the future."
That's right.
I thought the discussion was great, and it led me to some deeper thinking. If it is true that pi is a tool to measure our universe, then would it not stand to reason that because our universe is infinite, then pi would also need to be infinite? To me, this makes it erroneous to label it as an irrational number. It's perfectly rational that pi should be infinite if our universe is infinite. Anyway, maybe we should look at the inverse to test my line of thinking. Once again, if we pretended the universe was finite and scientists discovered the great snake eating its tail at the very edge of existence, then pi could also be finite. Could there be an end to the ever-sharpening tool of pi if the universe also had an end? Fun to think about. Either way, this brain explanation is starting to hurt. The snakelet is going to kick back and crack another beer. Have a good rest of your morning from Commander Xander.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like as huge as the universe might be, pi could also be that large.
Yeah,
And
have an endless supply of numbers. That's right.
yeah, well, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that if there is a finite universe, it's still massive.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to figure out like how detailed this pi number gets.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's the other interesting thing about and I could be wrong on this. I'm not an expert and I'm not a mathematician, but I'm pretty sure that there's no necessarily mathematical proof to say this number never repeats, like goes on forever, right? Maybe there is one, but I know that they have machines constantly calculating further digits of pi,
And looking for patterns.
and they've been doing it for like a long time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it's like, you're constantly trying to discover further numbers, and so far no patterns have been detected, and it doesn't have an end. So it's just like, will it actually go on forever, or will one day the computer be like, job done, right? Command over, pi complete.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. Okay. What do we got here? Oh, yeah, we can tackle a few more. This is from Nick, and this is called Simulation Argument. Yo, bros.
I'm ready.
Was listening to the last podcast, and you guys brought up simulation. What most people are referring to isn't necessarily the belief that we are in a simulation, it's the simulation argument. This is how Nick Bostrom lays it out. Simulation argument. Part 1, or number 1. The fraction of human-level civilizations that reach a post-human stage, that is, one capable of running high-fidelity ancestor simulations, is very close to 0, or 2, the fraction of post-human civilizations that are interested in running simulations of their evolutionary history or variations thereof is very close to 0, or 3, the fraction of all people with our kind of experiences that are living in a simulation is very close to 1. The point is, humans create worlds. In games, in theater, in stories, it is what we do. This is morphed into video games and computer models. If we do not wipe ourselves out, and we invent supercomputers, and those supercomputers can simulate the universe, those simulated universes would have simulated universes. And that continues to the point that finding yourself in the universe that created the original simulation is next to 0. The simulation argument explores the idea that if there is a simulation, we are more likely to be in a simulation than not. It is not trying to explain the origins of us or the universe. I love the show. Hope this makes sense. Yes, I've heard this argument before too. Like, if it's possible to make perfect simulations, or ones that are, basically undetectable with our current level of technology, and then that can be recursive. Like a simulation can have a simulation within it and a simulation within it, these are arguments that are tough to make with current physics because you run out of space in atoms and things to like make calculations, right? So like even with quantum computers, you're going to have a problem with like a simulation being run inside of another simulation.
Just doubles your...
It doubles the
processing
the processor that is running the simulation that has a simulation in it is now running 2 simulations.
Yeah.
Right.
And so on
okay.
and so forth.
I see.
So can it be infinitely recursive? We don't know. Right. This is an engineering question or a technological question, and it may just strain the limits of physics. It's possible that physics just doesn't allow for any kind of computation being run in the real universe that can perfectly simulate the real universe without using more resources than the real universe has to do it, right? That the real universe itself is running computations. Like when we talked about this with going through the Feynman stuff, that all these complex computations are happening all the time on the quantum level and on the atomic level and subatomic level. Single action computations that are happening trillions of times a second in tiny spaces. and that's what you have to do to simulate the universe, then there's just no way that you can have recursive simulations. But if
See
you
what you're
can,
saying.
But I like the idea that it may require all of the resources of the universe to simulate an exact replica.
Because the universe, yes.
That's
right.
that's how complex it is.
Right. So the question is like, people make arguments like, well, in a game, and this is true, in a game to conserve resources of the computer or of the computer running the game, the things that aren't being looked at aren't being computed. They're not being processed in the same level. There's just background data, going on that's much lower processing. But
that really that is based on this false narrative about the double slit experiment being that like when you observe it, it actually changes.
Right. I'm just saying that I know. I'm just telling you that right now in computer games, this is how it works. The direction your character is looking in a single player game is what's being rendered, and the stuff behind them is not being rendered as in nearly as much detail until you turn and look.
Yeah.
Right. All the objects are there, and it's going to reference the frames and everything. But yes, basically, it's a way to save processing power. Right. The stuff that's not around. Or there's another way with more modern games is there's a big sphere around the player character that's being rendered. And the world is much bigger than that sphere. And the rest of it is not being rendered. Like behind the stuff that's behind the hills you're looking at is not rendered until you go over the hill. The sphere moves with the character. So these are just ways to save processing power in games that we're doing right now. But the basic argument he's making is that if these simulations are possible,
then it's more likely that we're in one.
Then because of the fact that even simulated peoples would make simulations, because this is what you do, then the fact is that there's so many simulations and only one real world that the likelihood is actually that you're in a simulation of some form and not anywhere near the top of the chain either.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what he's saying. I don't know, but I see
It all
what you're
depends
saying.
on whether this can actually work. Yeah. But they're
I
fun
haven't even
arguments.
had the simulation argument placed in front of me that many times.
Sorry, but-
I still feel very new to trying to even understand.
Well, I mean, like,
I'm sorry, it hasn't been fun for me yet. Simulation conversation is just, I'm just like, okay. I mean, you guys know my.
yeah,
stance.
Kyle doesn't care.
I'm
If
just
we're in
like,
simulation,
okay,
he's
what-
like,
yeah,
who
whatever.
cares? Let's figure out how stuff works.
Yeah, that's
If we're figuring out how the simulation works, fine. We're in it. Let's figure it out. Yeah.
still need to know.
I mean, the Boltzmann brain thing was also a simulation argument. It just added another layer of weirdness to it, And that also requires like that you have to set up some priors, like some givens, like that the universe will die by heat death.
Yeah.
Right. This is where the Boltzmann brains will show up, and then the heat death takes so freaking long that those things are. Yeah, Kyle's bored already. Haven't even gotten to the part where they're simulating stuff. Yeah.
The heat death of the universe.
It is boring.
The most boring idea ever.
Yeah. That's right.
Don't take this personally. It was a great email. I appreciate it. It's not boring. It's just My thing is
It is boring to you, but he's not boring.
yes, exactly.
Thank you, Laura.
No, and the email, the emailer is not boring.
That's what I'm saying.
But I was really more referring to the heat death.
Oh, you were talking about the emailer, not me. I'm boring. My description is boring.
No,
but the
I'm
email is
saying
cool.
Kyle's talking to the emailer, and I'm saying he's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just trying to lay out the argument for us.
And he is, and it's yes, he's right.
Yeah.
But if that's all it's about, then it's like, okay,
Who
got
cares?
the argument. Let's
Yeah.
move on
Yeah.
with the real universe.
Whatever. We're in a simulation. Let's figure it out. I don't care. Yeah.
Don't bore me with the heat death stuff.
The heat death stuff, it's the Boltzmann brains that are weird in that one. I don't care about the heat death. That's just the heat death is required for Boltzmann brains to show up. Look at this.
Is
What is
it
going on
time?
there?
Oh, I shouldn't have done that.
All right. And one more. This one's a book. So this is a question. This is an interesting article from Japanese Archaeological Discovery Giants ? From Rob. He says, "Hey, Snake Bros, I understand Russ has a fascination with the Japanese culture, so I thought I would share an article I came across. I also hear that you don't necessarily just like clicking links, so I will do my best to shorthand this recent article and my thoughts so you can scope it out for yourself." So,
Good man.
He knows the rule.
that's right. Very recently, some archaeologists in Japan near the city of Nara unearthed 4th century Kofun burial sites where they found a 7.5-foot tall Daiko sword.
Yep.
So this was 1,600 years ago, they think. The typical Skirp-derp assumption is that this was to, quote, ward off evil spirits in the afterlife, unquote. Since it was obviously way too big for even a large person to reasonably wield. There are some odd aspects of this story, though. The first obvious red flag for me was that remains appear to be missing. Classic.
That's right.
Right? Why is a freaking huge sword still there, but the body is not? Also,
And like a 9-foot sarcophagus as well, or whatever.
And the
it was.
Kofun burial sites are the big key
the
shapes.
keys.
Yeah, the
I
giant keyhole.
I reported this story on this show.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so the design of the sword. The wavy blade design is not something that is a staple in the popularized Japanese style of sword making, which I think everyone has the katana etched into their mind's eye when thinking about these. The wavy blade design is more akin to the kris blade from India. But they claim this design was also seen in more higher society burials. So, if that is the case, why was this potentially valuable artifact left in situ, but the remains are gone? So now he wants
That's
you
a good
to cue the
question.
soundbite. Hold up. He wants you to play it for him.
Oh, can I do it?
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
You got to find it.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
See? We always deliver here on Brothers of the Serpent podcast. Okay. What is also interesting is the shape of the Kofun burial mounds. These are often described as keyhole shapes, but thanks to you guys, with these eyes, I see what appears to me as a pyramid shape with a rising sun above, or maybe a comet with a tail.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm not sure what to think about the mirror shield. This looks more like something Perseus could have used against Medusa or
Yeah.
something. Is there a precedent for a bronze mirror to be made as a shield in this culture? I'm sure there's a lot more to this story and or others like it if there is an interest in digging more into this. It has been commented that the Japanese are a bit more open-minded about their archaeology and perhaps less skirp-derpy than our American counterparts. I'm curious if you guys have come across this kind of information before. Is it worth exploring? Thanks again for all that you guys do to help stir the imagination and stimulate the higher cognitive processes. I'm still chugging through the back catalog and loving every episode. Recently, I bought Procession from $50 Dynasty because I could not get some of those awesome brainworm clips out of my head, and I needed whole songs, which was arguably worse because now whole songs are stuck in my head. But a good thing they are awesome. Great job for your part in these, Kyle. Brothers of the Serpent is still the best and fastest. 2 hours in podcasting. Kate, take care, fellow Serp Derps.
It sure is the fastest 2 hours. That's how I feel every time.
Thank you,
I'm in
Rob.
here.
That's a fantastic email. I totally agree with you. And yes,
Thank
there
you
is
so much.
mysterious stuff in Japan,
Yeah.
and we got to get there to see it. They have megalithic constructions, polygonal masonry, like yes, and it's like tied in with the royal family. You know, it's like to be the emperor, you needed to like occupy these platforms, and then they have the rising sun in the flag. They have the 3 magical artifacts in their history: the sword, the jewel, and what's the other one? I can never remember the third one. Maybe a shield. I don't know, but there's lots of parallels to many other ancient civilizations, and yeah, I want to get there. They have giant granite sarcophagi. They've got these Kofun tombs. They have the turtleback tombs, which are also really weird. They've got megaliths in their woods. So yes, I need to get to Japan for sure.
Yeah, we got to go. And I have to say this, don't buy the album on iTunes. That's the only place I think it's for sale. Maybe it's, but dude, this is weird. I went and looked because I've had multiple people tell me they bought it.
Are you not getting paid?
No.
Oh yeah, you gave it just enough money for iTunes to take all the cash?
No,
That's what's happening?
I made it $12 because I didn't want to do that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So people are buying it and we're not seeing anything. So
Wow.
I don't know what's going on there, but it's freaking free on the website.
It's free on the
If
website.
you want to donate, if you want to pay us, then you can hit the donate button on the website, or you can go to the Patreon.
Yeah.
So, but thank you very much for buying it.
From Steve Jobs. You bought it from Apple.
It's not your fault. That's what I'm trying to say. All right.
Podcast
That was a
over.
great show.
Yes.
Great interview. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you for joining us, Laura.
Thank you for having me so much.
Yeah.
And thank
And-
you, Snake Force.
Yes, thank you all. We love you.
Always have.
Always will.
Good night, Adamo.
Get back to work. You fucking nailed it that time.
Thank
Where was your like I love you the most? You can say it at the end.
I love you the most.
There you go.